Welcome to the next episode of Confessions of a Property Investor. I'm Catherine Andrews, Director of Investments.
And I'm Michelle White, Director of Qualifications.
Today, Mish, we're going to be discussing the reality of equity. Equity, what is it and how can we use it to benefit us to buy an investment property? So why don't you give us your expertise a little bit about equity and the reality of using it from your primary residence as a tool.
Absolutely. Equity can be one of the most beneficial ways to be able to kickstart your property investment journey. The easiest way to understand what equity is looking at the value of your property, looking at the mortgage you still owe on your property, and that gap in between.
Yes.
That's really what you owe in your property.
Yes.
What we want to be able to do is then use that as a tool to purchase our next investment property.
And the reality of this, of course, is that it does increase your liability. Absolutely. Because a lot of people are like, oh, does it put me in more debt? Well, yes, it does. But there's two different debts, right? There's good debt and there's bad debt.
Yeah.
Right? So utilising security of an asset to extract funds to purchase another asset is considered a pretty good move. Utilising an asset as security to extract funds to go on a holiday is not a good move.
Not the smartest move.
Exactly. So why don't we differentiate the difference and I guess run down for our viewers and our listeners on how we use it, why we use it, and really you only want to use it 1 to 2 times at a max, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So I guess from a numerical point of view,
always.
bank is willing to lend you up to 80% of the value of your property. So we never really want to push past that unless it's necessary.
Right.
That being said, if we can utilise that difference between 80% and the mortgage as that 20% and costs for an investment property, we've now acquired an investment property without having to save up and use cash.
Yes.
So what it's really doing is allowing us to take a step back. Yes, we do use some equity. Yes, we do bump up our mortgage a little bit in our home, which we can keep to the side, but it allows us to, as you so rightly said, acquire something that's increasing in value.
Yeah. And I guess the difference is you don't actually increase your mortgage per se. You create a loan, a separate loan that is secured by the value of the asset.
Yep.
And that asset is your primary residence. Now, the benefits, now I do say we're not accountants, okay, but our wonderful accountants have informed us pretty generally that it is a benefit, a tax benefit, to create a split loan or an investment loan that sits separately to your mortgage, and that is a tax deduction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The full interest component of that split loan is put down as a tax deduction.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a lot of Aussies probably don't know that they can do that, and they just look at it as, oh, you know, I'm increasing my mortgage. Well, technically, yes. Realistically, when you start to break down the numbers and the benefits you gain out of those loans attached to it, it actually works out better, even with the rates sitting where they are, because it essentially is a tax deduction. It's you know, I've seen, and obviously the accountants have come back to us, it's pretty beneficial for a lot of people that are in that higher tax bracket as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is not including the tax benefits of your investment property. This is simply the loan that's attached to your primary asset.
Absolutely. And as you so rightly said, we only really want to use the primary home once or twice.
Yeah.
Because afterwards, your investment property is increasing in value enough to be able to use the equity from that.
That's right. And that's very different. They do say, one thing I learned when I was a lot younger is use the bank's money, you know.
To make money.
To make money. Yeah, it's a pretty good rule to go by.
Definitely.
Mish, can you just let our listeners, give them some insight, I guess, on some of the questions they may be thinking right now, which would be, okay, so what is the downside to using that? What are the risks involved?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is, at the end of the day, a confessional.
You're 100% right.
Yeah.
Okay, the biggest fear that comes to me would be, is my repayment going to increase on my home?
Right.
And that's understanding the difference between an increased mortgage and having that split loan that you spoke of before.
Yeah.
Your mortgage in terms of repayments shouldn't change.
If anything, it should essentially maybe come down a little bit if we can help you there.
If we can help,
But yeah.
absolutely. You'll then have that, excuse me, you'll then have that split loan that's associated with the property. And so it can be seen as a risk because, yes, there is a stronger liability on your home, but the reality is that you have another asset that is covering the difference.
So I guess your exit strategy with this would be that you would, if anything was to go dire straits or really wrong, you would probably sell up your investment property. Yeah.
You sell. You've got a fallback plan.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I guess that concludes our short episode on equity. We could go on and on about it because there's so much more to it, but it does sort of overlap with, what the experts in the industry that we reach out and deal with, which is your finance managers and your accountants that we deal with daily that can really answer the questions there. But in a nutshell, rule of thumb, you use a little bit of equity to get your costs together to buy an investment property.
Absolutely.
That's it. You basically use the security on your primary residence as a bit of a tool.
That's right.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we look forward, guys, to seeing you in our next episode where we will be touching on wealth and the stigma attached to it. Thanks again for joining us.
Looking forward to the next confessions.
See you guys.